Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I have a yoga mat. If you don't have one, don't worry about it. What you can do is use your living room rug, or maybe you've got an area in your house that's carpeted. Just a place that is not too slippery, not too hard. I've got 2 yoga blocks. If you don't have yoga blocks, you can use 2 thick books as a substitute. That can work. I also sometimes instruct you to use pieces of furniture that can be used instead of your blocks. And I've got a folded blanket. That can be as easy as the throw blanket from your couch, or maybe you've got a beach towel or a thick bath towel that you can use. Once you have those things, we will start today in what's called child's pose, and there's a lot of different ways that we can build out a child's pose. You might have your toe knuckles touching and your knees a bit wide. For some of us, sitting all the way on our heels is just not going to happen with our knees. Maybe many of us will find ourselves in that situation. So one of your books or blocks can be very helpful, even 2 of them, if you reach your arms onto them and give yourself a little scoot forward. You could rest your elbows on them. You can lose the blocks and just be reaching forward. You could also take your folded blanket and bring that behind your knees so that if you sit back a little bit, something helps you from going too far. So it can catch you from going too far there. But you get to design this just like you will design all the rest of the poses so that they suit you, because you are the expert of your own body and I am simply the guide. The other way that you might do child's pose is to sit back on your heels. So if that feels okay with your knees, and to rest your forehead either on one of these blocks or on the ground. Your arms can reach in front of you or alongside you. And now I'll be quiet for a moment so we can land. We'll stop so that we can start. Three more moments, just turning the arrows of attention inward and becoming conscious of our breath, aware of our breath. Let's slide out onto our bellies and into what's called Sphinx pose. We'll bring our forearms parallel to the long edges of our mat. If there are props that you were using, that's great. Just scoot them off the side of your mat. Now, lower down for a moment. Make a pillow with your hands and rest your forehead on your hands for just a second. And while you're down here, notice that when you inhale, your ribs get wide. And when you exhale, they sort of narrow or fold a little bit. I just want you to feel the effects of your breath against the ground. Having that feedback is really helpful. If you're able to breathe in and out through your nose, that's ideal, but it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong if you have to breathe through your mouth. Let's just bring awareness, partly by what we're feeling against the ground, and partly just by bringing our awareness to it, our attention to it. Let's stay with this breath awareness, and now bring ourselves to Sphinx again. So forearms parallel to the side edges of our mat. And then we'll traction our elbows towards us and draw our chest through the gateway of our arms. But it's almost as if we still remember what it felt like when our chest was more against the ground than it happens to be here in Sphinx. Sphinx is not about throwing your chin forward. So we would like to use this so that when we start to flow and do things like a cobra pose, we have broken things down in such a way that they're clear. So press the tops of your feet down and feel your kneecaps lift a little. Try to stay with that breath awareness. I'm not meaning to give you too many things. And then traction your elbows towards you, and all those dance together. Breath, movement, very subtle body movement, and opening up of our chest and our heart. Now we'll lower down enough that we can scoot those elbows towards us and curl our toes under. Now before we go anywhere, I want you to push into your forearm so that it rounds up in your upper back. When we did Sphinx, our shoulder blades moved towards each other. Now let your shoulder blades move away. Let's find our core strength. I know that can be hard to find sometimes. And lift our belly away from the ground, and maybe even lift our hips away from the ground and our thighs away from the ground. Keep the karate chop action of your arms and keep filling out that area, not concave, but filled out between your shoulder blades. So we're in a little bit of a plank on our forearms. Now if you can keep the karate chop and you can keep that rounded up feeling, you might very briefly take your knees off the ground and then return them, and return your thighs and your hips and your belly to your mat. Now lower your your belly down, uncurl your toes, take your arms behind you and interlace your hands. I want us to stay with that feeling of length and space. Press into the tops of your feet. Let your kneecaps come off your mat, and simply drag this interlace towards the back of your mat so your collarbones smile. Your belly can stay down the whole time. It might feel okay in your body to go a little bit forward and up with your chest as you magnetize the interlace towards the back of your mat. We're not throwing our chin forward. We're finding this in the shoulder blade area of our spine, and then we'll lower down. Make a pillow with your hands like we did a moment ago. Rest your forehead on your hands. Bend your knees and very gently windshield wiper your legs back and forth here. Just gently, easy breezy, easy does it. Now curl your toes under when you place your feet back down. Bring your forearms so that they're parallel to the side edges of your mat. Try to love me anyway as we karate chop and fill out that area. On our way to another forearm plank, I know, but we're gonna have fun with it, you'll see. Now let's lift our bellies, let's lift our hips, let's lift our thigh bones. You can keep your knees down the whole time and get plenty of bang for your buck here, wouldn't you say? And maybe you can stay with the alignment a little bit more. Only if it makes sense might you very briefly lift your knees. Place those knees back down, and then let's just let thigh bones, hips, belly come back down. And we'll slide our hands back next to our ribs. Uncurl our toes for a moment and traction into a low cobra. Low cobra borrows from our Sphinx. We're pressing into the tops of our feet and activating our legs. It also borrows from when we had our interlace behind our back. Remember, we were smiling our collarbones. Let's let that be true here. And then we'll lower down, curl our toes under, find that incredible core strength that you had when we did our plank on our forearms, and let it take you to all fours. And then from our all fours into child's pose. Remember how we started? You could even keep your toes curled under to bring yourself maybe not so far into the child's pose. That's another recipe. Or you're on the tops of your feet. And we just pause a second, plus this feels like a really nice thing after all that belly back bending that we did. Now come to hands and knees again. From hands and knees, curl your toes under, walk your hands just about 3 inches further forward. Push the ground away really actively. So I want you to use your arms a ton. Imagine that there is a hook in your tailbone. And now lift your hips up and back into down dog. Walk your feet as wide as your mat. Bend your knees deeply so it's a little easier to access. Push more energetically into your arms. Find the hook in your tailbone even more. And we've got our first downward facing dog. You can always return to the child's pose that we did together anytime you would like. Walk your feet forward to your hands. Arrive at the front edge of your mat with your feet hip distance and parallel to the long edges of your mat. Slide your hands up to your shins, your ankles, even up to your thighs. And then exhale and fold back in, but let's keep a long spine. Think hinge at your hips. Inhale, rise, reach thumbs to the sky, a V shape. We stand in our mountain, palms face out, and we arrive. We were on the floor for a while, so make sure that we're not woozy or dizzy at all. We'll stand into our mountain pose. and return to that breath awareness as if we were still lying on the ground, even though obviously that's not what we're doing right now. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and take your hands to your thighs or your shins or your ankles. Inhale, slide your hands up and uplift your heart, and then bend your knees deeply enough that your palms go flat on the ground, and we'll step back into down dog. Remember the hook in your tailbone and you're pushing through your arms. Your feet can be hip distance or a little bit wider if you'd like. Shift it towards a plank with your shoulders over your wrists, a bit like the forearm plank that we did. And now bring your knees down, a bit like the forearm plank that we did, but keep your shoulders over your wrists. Use your core strength to slowly lower all the way down onto your belly. Uncurl your toes, press into the tops of your feet. Drag your hands back or even your forearms back into a low cobra, or if you prefer it, a sphinx pose. Then lower down, curl your toes under and come through all fours. Find the hook in your tailbone, press into your hands, lift your hips up and back, down dog. We walk forward, our feet arrive all the way at the front edge of our mat, hip distance and parallel with our feet. Inhale, lift your heart. And then exhale, slide your hands in for a forward fold. And then we inhale, rise, reach thumbs to the sky, a V, and we stand in our mountain with our palms facing out. Let's do that again. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs or your shins or your ankles. Slide your hands up and inhale. Bend your knees deeply. Palms need to be flat so we can step into the hook in our tailbone and our down dog. We shift to plank, shoulders over wrists, and our knees come down. Belly firm as we lower to our belly. Uncurl your toes, press the tops of your feet. Either traction your hands or your forearms towards you, low cobra or sphinx. Lower down and curl your toes under. Come through all fours. Find the hook in your tailbone. Press into your arms strong as we lift our hips up and back into our downward facing dog. We walk our feet forward once again, all the way to the front edge of our mat, hip distance and parallel. Lift your heart, inhale, slide your hands up. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Then inhale, rise, reach thumbs to the sky, and we stand in our mountain with our palms facing out. Now, we step wide out to the side. And once we are stepping wide out to the side, let's take our arms wide out to the side, thumbs to the sky. Now, take your right arm up to the sky and then pat yourself on the back with that right hand. Left arm out to the side and thumb will face down. Take that left back of your hand to the small of your back, and that's plenty. It might be that you reach that left hand up as if to scratch something in between your shoulder blades, and you reach your right hand down as if to shake hands with yourself. You could take a kitchen towel with your right hand and drop it down if you want to, but we're not here that long, so just back of the hand to the small of your back and scratching with your right hand something between your shoulder blades is going to be fine. We turn our heels in and our toes out, and then like a plie, we'll bend our knees. We're trying not to feel as though we're struggling, so give yourself a little space. There is something called extension at your right shoulder joint happening, flexion at your right shoulder joint happening, and extension at your left shoulder joint happening right now. Don't worry, there's not going to be a test. 3 moments. Straighten your legs. Turn your toes forward for a moment. Release your arms. You can shake them out if it feels helpful. And then arms out to the side, wide, thumbs to the sky. Left arm up to the sky. You will pat yourself on the back with your left hand. Right arm out to the side, thumb faces down, and back of your right hand to the small of your back is plenty. You might work that right hand up as if to scratch something between your shoulder blades. It's like your left hand is also reaching for the same itch in between your shoulder blades. Maybe you hold on. Heels in and toes out. We'll try to keep the spaciousness in our arm positioning here, and then bend our knees so that we come into a goddess pose or horse stance, depending on who you're hanging out with, what they call it. And then we stay here for 3 moments. We'll straighten our legs and turn all toes to face that long edge of our mat. Gently release your arms out to the side, heel toe, until we are hip distance, and we can easily step towards that first front edge of our mat, feet hip distance apart. Let's use our sun salutation. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, elevate your heart. Bend your knees, palms go flat, and we step ourselves into down dog. From down dog, shift shoulders over wrists, bring your knees to your mat, and we come all the way down onto our bellies. Uncurl your toes, traction your hands or your forearms into your back bend, activate your legs. Lower down, curl your toes under, come through all fours. Then lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. Now, shift it forward and come onto all fours. Once you're on all fours, line up right hand, right knee, left foot on the middle of your mat. And take your left hand onto your hip. Now for some of you, this right hand slightly forward is helpful. For some of us, our right wrist right underneath our shoulder. So remember, you're the expert. I don't want this to feel like it's too much, so push the ground away and feel free to stay exactly as we are right now. You might take your left arm up to the sky. You might even take your left leg off the ground and extend it behind you. But I want to make sure that there's not a crumble and a collapse in our right arm. We have 3 moments balancing and breathing here. A little intensity on our right arm. Now stamp your left foot down, bring your left hand down, come to hands and knees, find the hook in your tailbone, lift your hips up and back, down dog. Lift your right leg back behind you and then use the velocity to step it through. It's likely that you also need to help it along. Grab one of your, actually both of your blocks, and stack those blocks tall on either side of your right foot. Turn your left foot flat. So the bottom of that left foot is flat on the ground. And inch this right foot over to the left just a little. Let's pretend like we're doing that side plank again. Right hand on your block or right forearm across your thigh is great. Left hand on your left hip. And then we will rotate our chest just like we did in that side plank to face that left side of our mat. It could be that you take your left arm up to the sky. You might take the back of your left hand to the small of your back, like the lower arm not so long ago when we were doing our horse stance or our goddess pose. 3 moments here. Now, take your left arm up. Come upright in a warrior 2 posture just for a moment. Take the back of your left hand to the small of your back, like some of you were doing just moments ago. And then take your right arm, thumb to the sky, and pat yourself on the back just for a moment here. You could work those 2 hands towards one another, or not. Then slowly straighten your front leg so we get a little break. That was a long time on our right leg, wouldn't you say? Let's go slowly on the way out. We bend our right knee. We release our arms wide out to the side, thumbs to the sky. Now carefully spin on your back toes and face the front edge of your mat. Take your hands to your blocks, move them off the sides of your mat so they're not underfoot. Palms flat, step to down dog. Hey, remember that child's pose we did at the beginning? This would be an excellent time to decide to climb into child's pose for a second, because that was a really long sequence. When you're ready, you will lift your left leg behind you. Actually, no, you won't. I'm sorry. You will come to hands and knees. Bloop. It happens. Come to hands and knees, and then it's left hand, left knee, right foot. And right hand comes onto our hip. Our left hip hugs underneath us. Good thing I didn't forget this part, almost. And then you can stay just like this, but I want you to push into that left hand so we're not crumbling. And then right arm to the sky if you want to. Maybe even right leg lifts, and we try to find some balance. And if you tumble over, no worries. I do it all the time. In fact, I nearly tumbled in our sequencing and forgot this. And then we'll stamp our right foot down, take our right hand down, come to hands and knees, lift our hips up and back into that downward facing dog. This time I actually bean it. Lift your left leg behind you. Step it through, probably help it along. And then we take our blocks on either side of our left foot now. We'll turn our back foot, our right foot flat, and we will heel toe this left foot over to the right. Either forearm across your thigh, so left forearm across your thigh, or left hand on your block. And we'll take our right hand on our hip. And now in this warrior two shape with our legs, we're looking to come back into what looks a little bit like our side angle that we just did, our side plank, that this is side angle. Couple moments here. Maybe we float our right arm up. Maybe we take that right arm behind our back, small of the back, back of the hand to the small of the back. And then we stay for 3 moments. I'll be quiet since it seems I can't really speak very effectively anyway. Now, let's take our right arm up and come upright in our warrior two with our arms out to the side, thumbs to the sky. Then we'll take the right arm back behind us again. So back of your right hand, small of your back. Left arm, thumb to the sky. Pat yourself on the back. Don't be too much in a rush to get those hands closer to each other, but if that happens, it's fine. And then let's give our poor little left leg a break and straighten that left leg. Slowly we go out much the way we came in. We bend our left knee. Release our arms wide out to the side and then spin on our back toes to face that front edge of our mat. We'll take our hands onto our blocks, scoot those blocks off to the side and step into downward facing dog. From our down dog, walk your feet to your hands, hip distance and parallel. Lift your heart, inhale. Fold as you exhale and take a hold of your elbows. Bend your knees quite deeply and drift your elbows forward. So it feels like this forward fold is a lot more about length through your spine. Notice which of your forearms is on top and swap it out. So now the other forearm gets its moment in the sun. Bring your hands onto your hips, firm your belly, and come all the way up to standing. Stand in your mountain once you're here. Feet hip distance, palms facing out. We'll take our sun salutation. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands to your thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, slide your hands up, bend your knees deeply, palms go flat, step it into down dog. Remember, hook in our tailbone. Shift it to plank, shoulders over wrists, and then bring your knees down. Use your belly strength to lower onto your belly. Uncurl your toes into your cobra if you'd rather make it sphinx pose. Sphinx pose it is. And then curl your toes under, and let's go through all fours. And back into down dog. From our down dog, walk yourself forward to come to seated. And once you're seated, place your feet hip distance out in front of you. Turn your fingers away from you. We've been doing quite a few things that either have been intense strength on our arms or some mobility in our arms. And this is going to be a little bit of mobility and will probably reveal some of the strength. So pick up your butt and scoot it just a little bit forward towards your heels. And then just squiggle your hands back a tiny bit and find that sweet spot of stretch, but not too much. You'll feel it probably in your elbow area also. If you want more, just walk your hands back further. Sometimes more isn't more. Five more moments in this stretch. There's a very, very loud blue jay outside. I never know quite what you can hear through my microphone, but let's be really careful as we come out of this. So just walk your hands a little forward and we'll come to a seated position, a cross-legged position. Right shin crosses in front of left shin. And I'd like you to make it a tighter cross. You can also sit on one of your blocks or maybe sit on your folded blanket. And once we're seated, let's take our right arm across and then like a little lever, grab that straight right arm with your left elbow, and then we just pull it across gently, and it's a nice counter pose to where we just were with our arms reaching behind us. And we'll switch sides. So left arm reaches across. You get the crux of your right elbow as you draw that across. Find the sweet spot of stretch. Release that, and now cross your left shin in front of your right shin. We'll get that nice tight cross, so not so much of a floppy ankle cross. Palms up or down. We'll take a moment to sit in meditation. You can close your eyes or just soften your gaze. Now, I'm going to suggest that we end our practice seated here in our meditation. However, if you would rather lie down in Shavasana, final meditation, feel free to do that. We'll be silent, we'll rest and digest, either seated or lying down. If you are lying down, you might draw your knees into your chest, carefully roll to one side, and bring yourself up to sit maybe even in a cross-legged seat. Let's bring our hands onto our heart and pause for a moment of gratitude. I am so grateful that you practiced with me today. I'm Andrea, and I look forward to us doing this again together soon.